Your leadership isn't about you. It's about God working through you and you allowing God to use you as an instrument and to be a vessel, allowing Him to fill you with His glory, with His word, with His righteousness, and for you then to live that out to your team. Have you ever walked into a meeting or sat at the leadership table or maybe even stepped out on stage to talk in front of your colleagues, maybe even if that stage is in front of a meeting room or in a assembly hall, I don't know, but maybe you have had to speak in front of other people and you're thinking to yourself, what am I doing here? Any minute now, someone is going to figure out that I have no idea what's going on or that I have no idea what I'm doing. So this is common. This is so common where we feel like imposters. We just feel like we don't belong here. And you don't deserve to be here. Like that's how you feel like I truly don't deserve to be here. But I just want to let you know that you are not alone. This feeling has a name and it's called imposter syndrome. And so many women feel imposter syndrome, and I have personally felt it myself a lot of times, okay? And so today we're going to be talking about why imposter syndrome happens, especially to women of faith, and how you can lead with confidence even when you still feel like an imposter. Let's do it. Do you wish that you could lead your team in a way that honors and glorifies God? Are you struggling to overcome self-doubt as a leader and have a desire to be more confident in your role? Welcome to the Women of Faith in Leadership podcast. I'm Rika, and for the last decade, I've experienced my fair share of managing challenging employees and teams in middle management leadership roles. I committed my leadership journey to God, and it changed everything. And I'm ready to share everything I've learned with you. Now, if you're ready to lead your team in a way that honors God, grab that notebook and pen, and don't forget your chai latte, and let's dive in. Now, before we get into it, I have got a question for you. Are you ready to stop doubting yourself and step into leading with bold confidence? Sounds amazing, right? Something very exciting is happening in just 2 weeks. Can you believe it? We'll be celebrating the 100th episode of the Women of Faith in Leadership. That is super crazy. And to celebrate, I'm so excited. I hope you can hear the excitement in my voice, okay? I hope it's palpable. I am giving away 5 confidence coaching sessions for 5 female Christian leaders listening to this show. In just 60 minutes, we will be uncovering the root cause of your self-doubt. We'll be discussing tactical strategies that you can implement daily and on the spot when you are experiencing a moment of self-doubt. But that's not all. You will also be receiving an action plan that you can start implementing immediately after the call. I hope that sounds exciting to you because I'm so excited. So why wait? There are only 5 sessions to be won, so get your application in today. Do not wait. You will be winning one of 5 confidence coaching sessions where you will master the art of leading confidently. Simply go to womenoffaithinleadership.com and get your application in ASAP. Application is very much similar to a competition entry. The difference is that in the application, you'll be giving me a little bit of information so that I can see if we can actually work together. But don't let your self-doubt creep in and think to myself, I am not worthy, Rika can't help me, I'm too far gone. Don't think that. Do not let the enemy tell you that you are not worthy to win one of these 5 confidence coaching sessions, because God has pressed on my heart to give these 5 confidence coaching sessions away for the 100th episode of the Women of Faith in Leadership. And so I'm really looking forward to working with 5 of you listening, and there's over 1,000 of you listening. So I'm looking forward to doing these 5 coaching sessions with you, but do not delay. Pause this episode, go to womenoffaithinleadership.com and submit your application today. In 2014, I stepped into a brand new role in a brand new country. I just immigrated from South Africa to Australia, and I was petrified of stepping into my new role. Now, I was in teaching, and I had no problems teaching. Teaching was, I'd done that then for many, many years. And so I wasn't scared to teach. I wasn't scared to jump into the classroom. However, a month after I started my role, I was asked to step up into an educational leadership role. So this would be in addition to my teaching role. I would be educational leader. Now, I said yes, and I thought, wow, what an opportunity. I've only been at this work for a month. I'd been in the country then for 2 months, but still, being in a country for 2 months, still really struggling to understand different accents, because coming from South Africa, yes, we did have a lot of different accents, we have 11 official languages in South Africa, but there's a huge, diverse crowd in Australia. That's all I can say. So I really struggled to understand the accents. And so in particular, I struggled to understand people from the UK, Scotland, Ireland. It was really challenging for me. But my brain soon got used to it, and I could start processing those different accents. But a month in, I was still struggling with this. And now I was expected to be educational leader. Now, the educational leader's role is to lead curriculum and development across the whole service for all staff. And so I received additional time away from the children, away from teaching, to be able to do this role once a week or once a fortnight. I can't even remember. Maybe it was even once a month. So I seriously suffered imposter syndrome in this role because I did not know the Australian curriculum. I mean, I'd only been in the country for 2 months. So I really felt that I was unworthy to be in this leadership role. But how it worked back then is that we had qualified educators certificate 3 and then diploma qualified, and then there was only one qualified teacher on site, and I was the one qualified teacher. At that point in time, one of the educational leaders were diploma qualified, so she decided it would be better for me to do it because I was higher qualified than her, okay? And she didn't personally like that role either. I felt it was an honor to be given that role. However, even though I felt it was an honor initially, I then had to really dive into the deep end because I did not know the Australian curriculum, if I haven't said that yet. Now I am meant to lead these educators on curriculum. I am meant to structure development on the curriculum, surrounding the curriculum to these educators, and the curriculum of which I have no idea. So I was frantically looking for some professional development online. I was looking, where can I go and actually attend training on this curriculum? Because now I'm meant to be the expert on the curriculum, but I have no idea. Unfortunately, at that point in time, there were no professional developments being offered. This curriculum was implemented a couple of years ago. I think it was 4 years before I came into the country. It was a brand new curriculum. And so then they had done a lot of training in 2010 and 11 on the new curriculum, but come to 2014, there was nothing. So I really just had to go and sit and learn it by myself. But I felt imposter syndrome every single day. And I remember at some point in time, we needed to implement something new from the curriculum. It was an update that had to come through. And so luckily, I was involved with all the updates and all the communication because I had registered on the website. And so this new thing that we needed to implement, and to be honest, I cannot remember what it was. One of the educators was giving me a really hard time because she was a difficult person, okay? If you have ever worked with, if you're in a leadership role, which you are because you're listening to this episode, you have experienced difficult people, okay? They just give you a hard time. No matter if you say it's black or white, no matter if you say yes or no, they are going to give you a hard time. And so she was one of these people. She was just going to give me a hard time no matter what. So this was not even it didn't even come from me. It came from the Department of Education. We had to implement this new thing in the curriculum. And I clearly remember sitting down with her, trying to discuss this thing with her, when she literally just got up, walked off, and screamed at the top of her voice. So she was walking past the other classes because we were sitting at in an office space. And so she was walking back to her classroom, screaming at the top of her lungs, "I will not be implementing this new thing and you can't make me." She's an adult. I'm an adult. And she's screaming like that in front of all the classrooms, all the educators, all the children, everybody can hear her. Talk about then feeling inadequate. Okay, I felt extremely inadequate to be dealing with this difficult person. I did not know what to do. And that did not help my imposter syndrome, because I felt like, well, I don't know how to deal with this person. Like I've never had to do HR or these sort of things before. And look, in the meantime, it's 11 years now since that happened. I made it my life's mission, well, my professional life's mission, to learn what to do in a situation like that. I never wanted to be caught off guard in a situation like that ever again, where I did not know what to do, or where I was humiliated like that in front of my colleagues by another colleague, right? So look, it's been 11 years, and that's why I am so confident in what I am sharing with you today, because I've experienced it myself. I have been very honest with you all about my experiences, about my embarrassments, and about my failings, but also about my successes. And so I share this from a place of, I know what you're going through, but I also know that you can get through it. And I also know that you can actually change this. You don't always need to feel like an imposter. This is something that can actually go away, and this is something that you can actually work through. I have also had the opportunity to speak to quite a few of you in the Facebook group, or on some Voxer or WhatsApp or Messenger chat. So thank you very much for those who have reached out to talk to me. And if you still want to talk to me, by all means, send me a DM. We can get into into Messenger and send voice notes back and forth. I'm not going to sell you anything. That's not the aim of those chats. It's actually just to get to know the listeners, so that I can actually tailor my podcast episodes. And that's why for the last couple of weeks, I hope you've noticed, I have talked a lot about self-doubt and confidence, because that is the one thing that came out that you guys told me that you are struggling with at the moment. So I'm tailoring my episodes. So the more you talk to me, the more I can tailor my episodes. Okay. And so I know that imposter syndrome can cause a lot of self-doubt. That's only one thing. There's actually various things that can cause self-doubt. And if you sign up for one of my 5 free coaching sessions that I'm giving away, you can win one for the 100th episode. Then you can find out as well what's the cause of your self-doubt, because we are going to work through that. That's one of the core things that we're going to be working on, because if you can understand where your self-doubt come from, you can actually address it. You cannot address what you do not know is not there, right? You don't know what you don't know. So please, if you have not yet, go to womenoffaithinleadership.com, submit your application for a coaching call. So let's talk about what is imposter syndrome. If we look at what is the definition of imposter syndrome, it can be defined as a feeling that you don't belong. Okay, feeling that you don't belong. And that can mean anything from that you're not qualified, that you don't belong in that moment with those people, or that you're scared that other people are going to realize that you're a fraud, even though you have the skills and the experience. Okay? So you can also feel like you don't belong because you don't have skills and experience, because somebody saw your personal potential in you and invited you to that. And so when I was, how old was I? 21. I think I was 21 years old. There was 2 fantastic leaders who saw potential in me. I mean, I was still studying at university to be a teacher, and they gave me a job in their training firm. So not only I was their personal assistant and their administrator, the office administrator, so I had a bit of a multiple, role of what I did. But they saw potential in me to go further, and they offered me a first aid trainer job. And so talk about imposter syndrome. Do you know who I was teaching first aid to? It was called basic life support. It's like first aid, but a little bit advanced than first aid. And it was the course from the American Heart Association. You get basic life support, advanced life support, and then pediatric advanced life support. Now, I was delivering the basic life support to doctors, nurses, and paramedics. Who was I? I was a student studying to be a teacher, and I am delivering first aid or basic life support to doctors, nurses, and paramedics. Talk about feeling like an imposter. I totally felt like an imposter. Who am I? I'm not even in the medical field. I'm not even studying to be in the medical field, and I'm delivering that course. Okay. And so, yes, great. I did. Obviously, I went through the trainer's training. to be an adequate trainer. I was assessed by delivering a course to people, and then I had to pass that to become a trainer. So yes, there was definitely some things that I had to follow to get there. But I felt inadequate towards a doctor, because you respect a doctor. I mean, they've studied for 7, 10, 15 years to be who they are. And they had to update their basic life support every 3 years. So they had to do it. And what I had to realize, and what I was also told by the two the people who had that training organization, is that it doesn't matter what your qualification is. They're there to learn the basic life support skills from you. Then they don't need to know that you're a teacher. They don't need to know that you're still studying to be a teacher. They don't need to know anything about you. What they do need to know about you is that you have the knowledge to pass on to them about what they need to learn about. And that was invaluable. Invaluable. I mean, I am now nearly 40. Okay, I'm 1985 baby, so do the math. I'm nearly 40. And I can still remember that. That was 20 years ago, 19, 20 years ago. I can still remember that. They don't care about my qualification or my background. They're there to learn from me what I have to offer. Okay. And so if you take anything away from this episode, remember that. But please don't jump off, right? I've got lots more to say, so definitely don't jump off right now. But the point that I'm trying to make is that you have got something to share. You've got something to share. And the enemy will come and make you feel like an imposter. People who are higher qualified than you, who have more experience than you, will make you feel like an imposter, whether they intend to do it or not, right? You will feel like an imposter, but you can work through that. Having imposter syndrome is not something that has to stay with you for a very long time. It's not something that you have to take medication for. It's not something that you have to go into a clinic for. You can actually overcome imposter syndrome with the help of God, okay? And if you want to work with a coach like me, then I can help you with that as well, with confidence coaching. I only offer confidence coaching to female Christian leaders, not to anybody else. You guys are the people who I love working with, because I have been you. I've been in your shoes, okay? So let's think about some common thoughts of leaders with imposter syndrome. So you might think something like, I'm not smart enough, I'm not talented enough, or especially like, I'm not as smart as people think I am. Or you might think that I just got lucky. I actually don't deserve to be in this role. Something that I used to think, and I won't bore you with another one of my stories, but I'll just quickly tell you that I often wondered if the role that I was in that director's role, if I wasn't their second choice, if the person who was actually their first choice just couldn't take the job and then they offered it to me. I definitely wondered about that for a very long time, but I also had to get over that and think to myself, well, it really doesn't matter whether I was the second choice or not. I was the one that was in that role for 5 years, and God used me as an instrument. So it really doesn't matter. And so why do Christian leaders experience imposter syndrome? Well, I think that we feel the pressure to be perfect and to have all the answers. As Christians, sometimes we do feel that we have to be perfect because we know that people are looking at us. We know that people think if we're Christian that nothing's ever going to go wrong with us. And we know that that's not true. We make mistakes. We make mistakes often. And if we can own those mistakes and not try and be perfect in the eyes of other people, then that can also help that imposter syndrome to fizzle down, because we don't want people to think we're perfect. So if you have this inkling that you need to be perfect, please, please, please do not think that. You do not have to be perfect. You are allowed to make mistakes, and you are allowed to admit to your team that you've made a mistake, okay? Yes, they do look up to you, but they don't look up to you just because they think you're perfect. They look up to you because they idolize you, and they think that you might be a really good leader. And so making mistakes is one of the characteristics, and owning that, of a good leader. Now, the other thing is that women in leadership often face more scrutiny and then internalize that, because that's just who we are as women. That's how God made us, okay? Women have faced scrutiny in leadership for many, many, many years. It's going away now. I am happy to report that I think it's going away. However, okay, this is now what I've read. I've done my research. Women are getting more recognition and respect in leadership roles. However, there are exceptions to the rules. I have actually spoken to a couple of you who have shared with me how you still feel like men are trampling on women in your role. Feel that you need to be in a servant's role, where men's opinions are that women don't belong in leadership. It's only men who belong in leadership, and women need to be the servant. Yes, some of you have shared that with me as well. So again, I can't say that for everyone, but I can say that from an outside perspective and from what I can see from my research is that women are getting more respect now, but for the last 100 or so years, they've not. And so I think that is still a battle. That's something that we're still battling with. But the other thing is, as women, we internalize things because we are emotional beings. That's exactly who God made us. That is not wrong. The world has made us feel like that's wrong. It's not. But what we tend to do is we tend to take things personally. Not all. I mean, at work, if you can separate your work and your personal life or not take it personally, great, amazing. But we do tend to internalize things more because we sometimes tend to think with our heart and not our head. Okay? So, because of that, the enemy loves to use self-doubt to keep us as leaders from stepping into our calling because he knows that we internalize things. He knows that we're emotional beings and he knows how we are. He knows our weak points. Okay? So, self-doubt is a way for us to not step into our calling. Like I said before, the enemy wants to keep us from reaching that goal and that calling that God has put on our lives as leaders. But let's have a look at some biblical truths about God calling the unqualified, because now we know exactly what imposter syndrome is. We know what are some common thoughts and why Christian leaders experience this, female Christian leaders. But there are actually 3 men in the Bible who didn't feel qualified at all for what God wanted them to do, okay? Moses actually said, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" Exodus 3:11. Who am I? And don't we just often say this, but God, who am I? Why should I speak up at this meeting? And we're not being obtuse or difficult to God. We are just feeling unworthy. Oh God, why me? Why did you choose me? I don't want to go and speak to these people. And I recently had a speaking engagement where I had to go and speak in front of a group of people. And I'll tell you now, I was petrified. It was just the other day on the 28th of January. I was absolutely petrified. I actually prayed. I said, please, God, let them cancel this. Please, God, just let them cancel this. Because I was so petrified to speak in front of this group of people. Because I don't like public speaking, okay? But I still did it. I still went to go and do it, despite of my self-doubt, despite of the fact that I thought, I'm going to be terrible. I'm going to be tripping over my words. They're going to pay me all this money and afterwards say that it was a disaster. We'd rather want a refund. I was making up all these stories in my head as to why I should not do that. Okay. The same with Moses. He was making up all these stories in his head about what Pharaoh was going to say. And did Pharaoh say them? Yes, he did. Because he had a lot of trouble with Pharaoh and there had to be some serious consequences for Pharaoh before he let the people go. And then he still did some things afterwards that, I'm thinking about coming to the Red Sea and trying to, get all the Israelites to come back or to kill them, whichever one. He made some mistakes, but Moses just pushed through. Okay, but Moses was not alone. Who was he with? He was with his brother Aaron. So we don't have to be alone. We don't have to think that we have to do this journey alone. God will send us someone to help us. God will send us a person who can talk sense into us and say, come, let's go. So if you don't feel like you have a person like that, pray and ask God, God, please give me a supporter. Please give me a helper because I need that person. Now listen to this one, Gideon. Who remembers the story of Gideon? Okay, Gideon's 300 men. Remember, Gideon had all these soldiers and then God said, that's too many. You have too many people. And then Gideon said, but God, this can't be too many people. How are we going to defeat that clan? And God said, okay, we've got a test. Take them to the water and let them drink from the water. Okay? Those who drink like dogs, let them leave, send them home. But those who are aware of their surroundings and who drink out of the palm of their hand, they need to stay. And how many drank out of the palm of their hand? Only 300. Okay? How was Gideon's clan of 300 going to defeat that huge big clan? Okay? There was no chance, but it was by the chance of God that it actually happened. Okay? And so God gave Gideon a plan. He said exactly what Gideon needed to do. And did he win? Yes, him and his 300 men won. Okay? So if God has a plan for you in your leadership role, there's no way that you can fail. The only way that you will fail is if you fail to step out in faith, is if you fail to actually do the thing that you are called to do. So don't be that person. Don't be that person who fails, okay? Think about Jonah. This is now just I did not write this in my notes, but think about Jonah. He refused to go and do the thing that God wanted him to do. But he first then he diverted to a different place, and then God had to give him this big lesson by being swallowed by a big fish or a whale, or there's a lot of speculation about what that was. He had to first learn a lesson, but did he end up doing the thing that God wanted him to do? Yes. So you've got a choice. You can either first divert somewhere else and learn this big, massive lesson, or you can just go and do the thing, and God will hold your hand all the way while you do the thing. Okay. And then the last one is Jeremiah. I do not know how to speak. I am too young. Jeremiah 1 verse 6. Jeremiah thought, I'm too young. And so how often do we think, well, I'm too young, I'm too unqualified, I'm too this, I'm too that. The same way I felt as a 21-year-old delivering basic life support to a doctor who has been a doctor for 20 years. And then on top of that, studied for 7 years to be in a GP's role, or 10 years or however long, or especially, a pediatrician. So, often we don't feel qualified. We feel too young, too old, too this, too that. Who am I? Who am I, God? And what all these stories have in common, and look, those are not the only three. I mean, I just mentioned Jonah, so I should say those are not the only four. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. I've said this before in the previous show as well. God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. Confidence comes from trusting Him, not your own abilities, not your age, not even your skills or your knowledge. Your leadership isn't about you. It's about God working through you and you allowing God to use you as an instrument and to be a vessel, allowing Him to fill you with His glory, with His word, with His righteousness, and for you then to live that out to your team. Even when you feel like you don't belong in your leadership role, God has called and equipped you. Confidence isn't about never doubting yourself. You will feel doubt. But what it's about leading despite of the self-doubt. How can you overcome imposter syndrome as a leader? Well, got a couple of things here for you that I'd like to give you as an action step. I like to give you guys strategies and tips and something that you can go and implement straight away. So number 1, stop trusting your feelings. Start trusting in God's truth. Feelings of self-doubt don't mean you aren't capable. Yes, you will still feel self-doubt. 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9 says, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in your weakness. So, what I'd like for you to do is write down 3 biblical truths about who you are in Christ and declare them over yourself daily. Okay. Number 2, reframe your thinking. You're not an imposter. You're a steward. Okay. You're not faking it. You're faithfully stewarding the leadership role that God has given you. Colossians 3 verse 23. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Your action step here is to shift your focus from proving yourself to just serving well. You don't need to prove anything to anybody. Just serve your people well. Then, number 3, take bold action before you feel ready. Okay. If you are going to wait to feel ready and to feel confident, you might never, ever step out in faith. You might never, ever do the thing that God wants you to do, that God wants you to do. Confidence comes from doing, not waiting until you feel 100% capable. Joshua 1 verse 9 says, "Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." So your action step is identify one leadership action you've been avoiding due to self-doubt and commit to doing it this week. So I've given you 3 action steps. Write down 3 biblical truths about who you are in Christ and declare them over yourself daily. Shift your focus from proving yourself to just serving well. Number 3, identify one leadership action you've been avoiding due to self-doubt and commit to doing it this week. And if you submit your application to win one of the 5 confidence coaching sessions with me, I'll be working on that with you. And I'll be keeping you accountable. Sometimes that's all that we need, is we need an accountability partner who will check up on us so that we know we can't look that person in the eye and say, "Oh, no, I didn't do it this week." Or, "Oh, no, I just couldn't do it." Or if you do say that, then your accountability partner will say, "Okay, but why did that happen? What can we do next time?" The final thought that I'd like to share with you is, if you're waiting to feel confident before stepping into your leadership role, you'll be waiting forever. Confidence comes from trusting that God has called you, equipped you, and is walking with you. So lead boldly, not because you're perfect, but because He is perfect. Now, just a final reminder, we'll be celebrating the 100th episode of the Women of Faith in Leadership in 2 weeks. And to celebrate, I'm giving away 5 confidence coaching sessions to 5 female Christian leaders. In the 60-minute session, we'll be uncovering the root cause of your self-doubt. We'll be discussing tactical strategies that you can implement daily and on the spot when you are experiencing a moment of self-doubt. And you'll also receive an action plan that you can start implementing immediately after your call. So don't wait. Go to womenoffaithinleadership.com, submit your application as soon as possible, and you'll go in line. You'll be in line, stand in line to win one of 5 sessions, confidence coaching sessions with me. So do not wait, okay? I'll be announcing the winners on the 100th episode on the 24th of February. That's when we're celebrating 100 episodes. Okay, so submit your application. The last date that you can submit is on February 23rd. February 23rd. Submit your application. You've got 2 full weeks. I will be advertising it in the Facebook group, and I will be sending you an email as well. So if you're not in the Facebook group or you're not on my email list, please make sure you get in there. If you join the Facebook group, there will be an opportunity for you to give me your email address, and then you'll automatically go on the newsletter. Or if you'd like to subscribe to my newsletter, you can just go to womenoffaithinleadership.com. And just where it says submit a listener question, you can just put in your email address there and say subscribe to newsletter. I think that'll be the easiest. Or alternatively, you can just email me, support@rikawhelan.com, and you can just let me know that you'd like to subscribe to my newsletter, and you'll be getting that. I cannot wait to receive your applications for one of 5 confidence coaching sessions. Let's pray. Dear God, I want to bring all these amazing women of faith to you, and I want to pray, God, that they will overcome imposter syndrome with your help, God. God, it's the enemy trying to tell them that they're not good enough and that they're unworthy. And even if it's not the enemy, God, sometimes we make up these stories in our head that we're just not good enough. We believe that other people think that we're not good enough, and then we simply fail before we've even tried. And I want to pray for each and every one of them that they will start feeling confident that you have called them into these leadership roles. I want to pray, God, that they feel worthy and that they feel that they can do anything through Christ that gives them the ability and the power to do so. God, anything is possible with you. And I want to pray for these women today that they will step into faith, even if they are doubting, even if they are fearful, that they will take a step, that they'll take a leap of faith, God, and know that you will be there for them. You will hold their hand and you will be there for them. You will not let them go. I pray, God, that I know that you've already equipped these women, but that they just have to step into those roles and trust God that you will give them the equipment that they need. You'll give them the tools, you'll give them the tips, you'll give them the strategies. And God, if they need a bit of additional help, I pray, God, that they will ask for some support. There is nothing wrong with getting support from people. There's nothing wrong with having a person to hold your hand through this whole process. And I want to pray for each and every one of them for a support person, whether that person is physically there with them, whether that's just a WhatsApp from a person that they know, a friend, a family member, or whoever that is. God, send each and every one of these amazing female Christian leaders a support person, somebody who is strong in their faith, somebody who can support them and pray with them. I bring these amazing women to you, God, and I please ask that you just be with them this week and that you will just bestow on them your amazing valor and your courage that you have. That's what I want to ask them, for courage and for valor to do these hard things that they think they can't do. Make them feel secure in you, God, and help them to remember to put on the armor of God on a daily basis, because you gave that armor to us to wear and to wear proudly. And I want to pray this all in your mighty, mighty name. Amen. I pray that you all have an amazing week, and I cannot wait to chat to you again next week. Bye. Hey, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts? It would mean so much to me to read your feedback. Also, it would really bless me big if you shared this episode with a fellow leader who might benefit from hearing today's message. And remember, put on the armor of God daily and walk by faith and not by sight. I'll meet you back on Monday for another episode.